Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever really stopped to think about what's powering you right now? We're about to trace the incredible journey of energy, all the way from a single ray of sunlight to the very cells in your body. All right, let's kick things off with a bit of a puzzle. A massive tree, a fungus, and you. On the surface, they seem about as different as you can get, right? But it turns out you're all playing by the exact same fundamental rules. And that's the answer. Every single living thing, from the smallest bacterium to the largest whale, follows the same basic rulebook to stay alive. They have to perform a core set of functions, no exceptions. So let's dive into what those rules actually are. We call these essential functions life processes, and you can think of them as the non-negotiable, absolute must-do tasks for maintaining life. It's pretty simple, really. If life is a game, these are the rules you have to follow to play, from how you get your fuel to how you actually use it. So rule number 1 is all about getting energy. And this is where life on Earth immediately splits into two major strategies. You either make your own food or you take it from someone or something else. Yep, life is basically split into two teams. First, you've got the makers, the autotrophs. Think plants. They're the ultimate self-starters, building their own food from scratch, using things like sunlight and air. Then you have the takers, the heterotrophs. And, well, that's us. We can't make our own food, so we have to eat the makers or other takers. So, how do the makers pull it off? They use this incredible process called photosynthesis. It's basically a 3-step recipe for eating sunlight. Step 1, chlorophyll grabs energy from sunlight. Step 2, that light energy gets converted into chemical energy, which splits water molecules apart. And step 3, the plant uses that chemical energy to turn carbon dioxide into glucose, pure sugar, pure energy. And here's the wild part. This process didn't just figure out how to feed plants, it literally created the oxygen-rich atmosphere that allows us to live, a total game changer for the planet. And the shopping list for this recipe? It's amazingly simple. All you need are 4 things. Sunlight to provide the energy, chlorophyll to catch it, carbon dioxide from the air, and water from the ground. It's the ultimate solar-powered kitchen. Okay, so once all this energy-rich glucose is made, you can't use it all at once. You've got to save some for later. Plants do this by packing the glucose together into a big molecule called starch. We animals do the same thing, but we store our extra glucose as a slightly different molecule called glycogen. Basically the same idea, just different packaging. All right, let's flip the script and talk about Team Taker. We eat food that's full of starch, proteins, and fats. But how do we unlock the energy inside? Well, for that, we have an absolutely incredible internal disassembly line, our digestive system. And this disassembly process kicks off the instant you take a bite of food. Your own saliva contains a special enzyme that gets to work immediately, breaking down complex starches, like in bread or potatoes, into simpler sugars before you've even swallowed. Next up, the stomach. You can think of this as the high-acid wash cycle. It floods the food with powerful acid and an enzyme called pepsin, which specifically targets and starts dismantling the complex protein molecules from things like meat or beans. But the real magic happens in the small intestine. This is the main event. This is where a cocktail of potent juices from the liver and pancreas shows up to finish the job, breaking down absolutely everything, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, into their smallest, most basic, usable parts. And this is the whole point of that disassembly line. It's all about this conversion. Big, complex carbohydrates are broken down into simple glucose. Long chains of protein become individual amino acids, and large fats are turned into fatty acids. These tiny molecules are the only things our body can actually absorb and use for fuel. So how do these tiny fuel molecules get from your gut into the rest of your body? They're absorbed through millions of microscopic, finger-like projections called villi. Now get this, because it's wild. If you could take all the villi from one person's small intestine and flatten them out, they would cover an entire tennis court. That's how dedicated your body is to not letting a single drop of fuel go to waste. Okay, so the fuel has been delivered into the bloodstream, the trucks are on the road. But how do your cells, the individual houses, actually use that fuel? This brings us to the final microscopic step of the entire energy journey. It's a process called cellular respiration, and this is the actual chemical reaction happening inside trillions of your cells right now that cracks open glucose molecules to release energy. That energy is captured in a special molecule called ATP. You should think of ATP as cellular cash. It's the universal currency that powers absolutely everything. And the constant process of making and spending this ATP, that's your metabolism. Now, it turns out our cells have two ways of cashing in that glucose for ATP. The primary method is aerobic respiration. When there's plenty of oxygen around, it's like a super efficient power plant, squeezing every last bit of energy out of the glucose. But sometimes you need energy fast, and oxygen is in short supply. That's when cells fire up the backup generator, anaerobic respiration. It's lightning fast, but it's messy and gives you way less energy. And if you've ever really pushed yourself during exercise, you know exactly what this feels like. You know that burn you get in your muscles when you're sprinting or lifting something heavy? That's a sign that the backup generator has kicked into high gear. Yep, your muscle cells are screaming for more energy than your bloodstream can deliver oxygen for, so they switch to that fast and dirty anaerobic respiration. The byproduct of this emergency energy production is lactic acid, and it's the buildup of that lactic acid that causes the burn, the fatigue, and the cramps. So when we just zoom out for a second and look at the whole big picture, what we see is this beautiful, incredibly interconnected system. It really is this constant, unbroken flow. It all starts with the sun. Plants capture that energy. Animals eat the plants. And then deep inside our cells, that very same energy is unlocked to power every heartbeat, every thought, and every single footstep. It's an unbroken chain. And all of this leaves us with a pretty deep question to chew on. If life is, at its core, just a really complex series of chemical processes for capturing and using energy, then what is the real difference between a living thing and a very, very sophisticated machine?